Pollinators people and the Palouse people. They may have come down here to harvest camas or different root plants to use throughout the winter. In the 1900s, Jacob and Louise Koppel moved to the area, and their historic farmstead is behind me here. They started farming about 200 acres that was used in wheat production, as well as developing hay for their cattle operation and their dairy. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, they really were able to provide for the community by giving meals away from their land, being avid gardeners, and provide that safe haven for folks. Their legacy lives on today as the family donated 13 acres to the City of Pullman to be used for a community garden. There's about 100 plots where community members can adopt a plot for a year and be a steward of that plot and use it to grow produce.
There really is no better setting to conduct a citizen science or community science program than here at a community garden. And what makes Koppel Farm's community garden so beneficial to the community here is that it provides a hands-on learning environment in which members of the public can gain first-hand experience understanding how to grow food and learning about how growing food impacts the health of the soil of the Palouse and impacts the health of the greater ecosystem of the Palouse as well. But you don't actually have to be here actively gardening and farming in order to take advantage of all that Koppel Farms has to offer. For example, there are community organizations around here that farm in these plots and then donate the food that they produce to local food banks, and in that way are working to address issues of food insecurity here on the Palouse. If you are a fan of recreating outdoors, then you can and are encouraged to come out and take a stroll around the plots on a lovely day such as this, witnessing all of the members of the natural community around here, like our birds and butterflies and bees. There is a lot that Koppel Farms has to offer here in the way of habitat, which is the environment that serves as food and shelter for all living things.
Pollinators are crucial for agriculture, and Koppel Farms is home to many garden plots where people grow produce. And this produce depends on pollinators for reproduction and to produce the yummy fruits and vegetables that we love to enjoy. So we can owe a lot of the delicious food that we like to eat to our pollinator pals. Now, native pollinators are special because they've co-evolved with the native plants in the area. In some cases, pollinators are generalists, which means that they can go to many different plants and pollinate them. But in some cases, there are special pollinators that are specifically designed to pollinate other specific plants. For example, bumblebees are really important for pollinating plants like tomatoes and blueberries, where they rely on buzz pollination that bumblebees are specifically adapted to do. So providing good habitat for pollinators is important not only for the honeybees that many of us are familiar with, but also for the diverse array of native pollinators that enhance our local ecosystem.
The Citizen Science project we've launched here at Koppel Farms aims to look at the relationship between pollinators and native plants. It will allow us to make connections between which pollinators are supported by which plants and at what time of year. Data that you submit to our project will help us determine if our restoration efforts are working as intended. Much of our work is focused on improving ecosystems and creating habitat for wildlife throughout the Palouse. We do this by strategically planting appropriate trees, shrubs, grasses, and wildflowers where they're likely to thrive. We've even done that here at our own plot that we've installed at Koppel Farms with native plants, a bee hotel, and a bird nest box. Understanding how pollinators in particular use native plants will shape how we do our work in the future.
Some species of pollinators that are likely to be seen here are western bumblebee,
Two-form bumblebee,
black-tailed bumblebee,
hoverfly or flower fly,
agile longhorned bee,
cuckoo bee,
metallic green sweat bee,
small carpenter bee,
Briding's forester moth,
purplish copper,
western tiger swallowtail,
black-chinned hummingbird,
rufous hummingbird,
calliope hummingbird. Some species of plants that you might find growing here include yarrow,
arrowleaf balsam root,
Oregon grape,
woods rose,
elderberry,
lupin,
blanket flower,
penstemons,
prairie smoke,
prairie coneflower,
orange globe mallow,
Oregon sunshine,
buckwheat.
Rocky Mountain bee plant.
While you're out exploring, keep an eye out for birds as well. You may find some hummingbirds pollinating, but non-pollinating birds are equally important to the health of native plant communities. Many of the birds you'll find around here eat the fruits from native plants and then scatter the seeds elsewhere in their waste. These seeds grow into mature plants and go on to produce viable habitat throughout the Palouse.
Throughout your time of volunteering with citizen science, you're going to learn a lot. And you'll notice that pollinators are more active during warmer summer months. You'll also notice that different pollinators are active at different times of the day. Each individual species has its own internal clock, so to say, that tells them when to go to a flower or when to stay back at a hive. It's just like our internal daily clock that tells us when to get up from bed or when to go to sleep. Different species have different internal rhythms, but we see general trends of activity from 10 to 3, with the height of activity around 2 p.m. Our citizen science project at Koppel Farms is a collection of informal surveys that require photographic data points, but can be carried out at any time by anyone. You can do this through the iNaturalist app. The boundaries of our project are in and around the plots at Koppel Farms. Once you're on the iNaturalist app, you can join the Koppel Farm Beneficial Insects and Birds project. Once you're there, have your camera out and get ready to observe and capture what you find. Once you select a good picture of a pollinator, then you can upload that picture onto the app and include important information and details like which plant it was found on and what the weather was like that day. Then submit your complete findings to the project.
You also may notice that different pollinators prefer different flowers, and this is because different species of plants will mature and produce nectar at different times throughout the year. Also, as Kaylin mentioned before, some pollinators are generalists and will pollinate many species of plants, while other pollinators are specialists and only focus on one or just a few species of plants. Be sure to come out here on a regular basis if you can in order to witness these patterns yourself, which is a really rewarding way of learning. You'll also notice that pollinators don't just prefer different types of food, but they also prefer different places of rest and shelter as well. When you are out here looking for pollinators, be sure to look at places that will most likely be homes to pollinators, such as this bee hotel behind me. When you're here at Koppel Farms, please keep in mind these points of proper etiquette.
Be mindful of where you are. These garden plots are great places to view pollinators since they are an essential component to food production in the garden. While we want community members to participate freely in citizen science, please be respectful of the garden plots you are observing. Please do not enter or take items from plots that do not belong to you.
Please do not disturb plants wherever you might find them. It can take a few years for plants to rebound from being broken or damaged, which means that pollinators have to wait longer for good habitat. Watch where you step so you're sure not to be trampling on small ones that may be harder to see than others.
Be patient. You're more likely to see wildlife doing what they do if they aren't aware that you are there or simply don't care. The best way to remain inconspicuous is to move slowly and calmly and keep your eyes and ears open.
Never chase or disturb wildlife. It's very stressful to them and won't get you good results. On that note, it's a good idea for the health and safety of both you and the wildlife not to stick your fingers in the bee hotel or put your nose right up against the nest box. Remember, animals can be very sensitive to being bothered and may even abandon their young if they feel endangered.
Don't forget to follow directions. If using an application, read all of the prompts. If participating in a program, pay attention to the protocol and be sure to ask any questions you have before you start collecting the data. Being involved with citizen science here at Koppel Farm is a great opportunity to hone in on your nature observing skills and learn more about the ecology of the Palouse region where you may call home. And one great opportunity to get involved is Backyard Bingo at Koppel Farm. You can find this sheet on our website at palousecd.org. You have the option to print off the sheet at home and wander around your own backyard, but we encourage you to come on down to Koppel Farm and grab a physical copy here and complete your bingo sheet while you walk around the farm. You can send your completed bingo sheet to palousecd@palousecd.org. This is a great activity for all ages to get involved, and we look forward to your participation.